okay? Okay. I kind of want to shove everybody towards the middle, but okay. No. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming on a Saturday, on a wet Saturday. The topic I picked is, to be honest, I forgot what it was, so I kind of laughed as I read it again. But sometimes people complain that, or they say, karma is kind of a bad thing, or karma is, not so great. But in a way, karma is actually our chance to learn. If we're paying attention, it's a chance to learn, and it's feedback, really, right? So if something's hurting, exactly why it's hurting, what we have to do may not be clear, but it's a sign that something's not going right? If your body's hurting, there's a problem you need to have checked out. If your heart is hurting, maybe you need to think about the way you're looking at life, or the way you're doing things, or the way you're evaluating things. So in that sense, it is feedback. And they call karma the iron law because in a sense there's no escaping it, right? The abbess at a big temple I know got really annoyed with the nuns there because when they would get cavities, they would just meditate on them. They would keep meditating on them until they became abscesses or root canals. And everything kept getting more and more expensive. So finally the abbess got really angry one time. He said, "Stop trying to practice with your cavities. Just go to the dentist." Right? If we, that was a digression. Once something is manifest like that, it's manifest, right? If I break this cup, it's broken. But it doesn't have to go that way. If I'm a bad driver, right? This is my favorite example because A, I used to be one, and B, I know people like this in Korea. If I'm a bad driver and I keep driving like a nut job, I'm gonna have an accident, right? It's just a matter of time. I used to work a 6 a.m. shift at a factory, and there was no cars around. It was four-way intersections where basically you just kind of slowed down and looked all the way down through the section of town to the factory, and there were no cars at all. And so I'd just be coming to work, just bombing down the street, 30, 40 miles an hour, whatever, just because there were never any cars. One day, right at the block below me, I saw the guy I worked with doing the same thing, just through the intersections. I was like, oh, yeah, if I'd been one block ahead of where I was, that would have been exciting. But he's driving like that, so okay, I better pay attention. An accident didn't have to happen, right? Before it happens, if I change the way I'm thinking, if I change the way I'm looking, if I hate the world, and so I just drive really type A personality in Seoul traffic, right? You can't do that forever. I know a guy who, he looked like a little bit like a traditional ajashi, a little bit on the lounge lizard side of things, but he drove like somebody's grandma. And it was really weird. It was just like, well, this does not fit. One of these things is not like the other. And I was kind of puzzled by it, and I said, okay, whatever. That's just the way he drives, okay. Well, I found out that about until a month before, he didn't drive like somebody's grandma, he drove like an ajashi. And then he got in a big accident. The whole car, except for the driver's compartment, was completely crushed. The fire department had to come, and they had to cut him out of the car. And he basically just walked out with just a few bruises. But, of course, after that, he drove like somebody's grandma because he had the type A personality scared out of him. But it's the same thing with the stuff in our life. We don't have to keep going down the same path. if we make up our minds to change what we're doing, if we say, I don't want to do this anymore, we can change direction. So when we talk about karma, manifest karma is manifest. You can't do much about it except try to learn from it and figure out what you need to do the next time. If you've got big nasty holes in your teeth, okay, what do I need to do better? And then figure out what to do going forward. But if your teeth are okay and you begin to wonder, am I not brushing enough? Now's the time to start. Now's the time to change that direction. Regardless of what you've done in the past, regardless of what you may feel guilty about, you can still turn that around. Because we're all, I'll talk about this some more in a minute, because we're all connected, not only can we help other people through this connection, we can also repay our debts to other people through this connection. There's a great story. One point is really obvious, and the other point most people won't think about. But a very famous named Wonhyo Desa lived about 120, 30 years ago in Korea. And he completely revitalized the Buddhist tradition in Korea. Well, he and one of his main disciples were out collecting rice for the temple, right? And this isn't like little bags of rice. This is big bag of rice on the back of what they call a chige, A-frame pack. And so they're collecting rice, and the disciple was actually very famous later himself, named Manggong Snim. And he was complaining about how heavy the bag of rice was, because these are big old bags of rice. Oh, it's so heavy. Oh, how much more? How much further? When can we go back? Da, 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 da. I think Kyung Ho Snim got sick and tired of his griping, right? Because it's probably a hot day, and it's just hour after hour. And they're walking through a village, and Kyung Ho Snim grabs this agashi, this young lady, mid-late teens probably, walking down the street or on the side or on the road or whatever, and kisses her. Right? In 19th century, 20th century Korea, that's a huge, huge deal. That's like, that's a big time assault, right? She freaks out, she starts screaming. Her brothers, uncles, friends, neighbors start coming out with farm implements, right? And they start running out. When Kyung Ho Snim and Manggong Snim just take off down the road, right? Because if these guys catch them, they're going to kill them, right? Just straight up. Oh, I didn't mean to kill him, but you were hitting him with a steel hoe. How, it's like, whoops, oh well, keep digging and just roll them in and don't tell anybody, right? So they're running for their lives probably. And finally they escape, and Manggong Sim is just like a little bit freaked out and doesn't know what's going on. So, is that sack of rice still heavy? Manggong Sim, obviously he completely forgot about the rice on his back, completely. And so, Kyung Ho Sim was trying to teach him. And there's probably a lot more deep meanings to the points he was trying to make. But he really wanted to get across this point that when he was running for his life, he completely forgot about all the stuff that he thought was such a big deal, right? It just completely gone. But the other thing is the young lady that Kyung Ho Snim kissed. She, of course she was probably shocked, and maybe somebody started a bad rumor about her in the village or something. But more than likely, because Kyung Ho Snim was somebody who understood this connection with other people, I'm fair, without being completely enlightened to the point where I can know exactly what he was doing, I'm fairly certain that he probably repaid his debt to her, right? Somebody like Kyung Ho Snim, she should marry a good husband and have healthy kids and always have enough to eat, right? Somebody who's completely, very deeply enlightened at this level where we're all connected, raises a thought like that, and that thought manifests, right? That thought becomes reality. I think everything moves in that direction. And there's individual karma there that can kind of mess with that, but if somebody like that says, it should be so, then everything starts moving in that direction. And it's because we're all connected, right? If me and this cup are completely disconnected, right? Whatever I say over here has nothing to do with this cup except maybe a few sound waves bouncing off of it. But my left hand and my right hand, great, not enough coffee today. My left hand and my right hand actually are connected. So whatever happens here, whatever nutrition, whatever good circulation, whatever bad circulation happens here is going to wind up affecting this part. It's at the visible level, at the obvious level, we're all separate. But at this very deep level that in Buddhism sometimes we call fundamental mind, fundamental nature, or Buddha nature, we're all connected. And so the thoughts that one person gives rise to, the thoughts that one person imparts, have an effect on everybody around them. If you let them go again, if you entrust them inwardly, they have an effect. They have actually, I should say, they have a much stronger effect when you entrust them back here. So, the first meditation hall I went to in America, right? It had if I remember, it had a kind of a swinging door system. And, just outside, it's like, okay, it looks nice. You could see through the window and everything. But when the door opened and I walked inside, it was just like, wow, such a strong feeling, right? And it was really surprised me. And I mean, I can't say that it was a place of super deep enlightened people practicing, but it was a place where people were very, very sincere in their practice, and they practiced very hard. And the echo of that, the residue of that still remained there. You could feel it. On the flip side, at least everybody who said anything to me, every sincere Buddhist I know who's been to Las Vegas utterly hates the place. They just feel completely creeped out and they can't wait to leave the place. Right? Just want to get out of town as soon as possible. Husband or whoever thought it'd be a cool idea, or let's go see this place we've always heard about. And just the feeling of creepiness, right? The feeling of something's not right here just makes them want to leave as soon as possible. And why would that be? Well, Vegas is about two things. Getting something for nothing and chasing your desires. Your most physical level desires. And people put a lot of energy into that there. And it's something for nothing is such a weird, hilarious one, because we're all connected. If I want something, if I need something, it's an exchange. It's like energy all flowing together. And the idea that everything is going to flow this way and I'm not going to let anything flow that way is just not going to work. You can't do that for very long. We're all connected. Everything's flowing and interpenetrated. Everybody's sharing the same life, sharing the same mind, sharing the same body, sharing the same life. And when I try to block that flowing and say mine, and this inside this wall is mine, and I'm not going to let it out. People try to do this. They say, I'm not going to let it out. I'm going to hang on to this stuff. They're trying to keep it from flowing away. But what they're accidentally doing is keeping anything new from flowing in towards them. In the Bible, where it says, look at the ants of the field. Ants of the field? Okay, I suppose. The lilies of the field are the ants of the whatever. Right? Do they work? Do they do this? And yet they all prosper. Well, to me, that's what this is talking about. This, because we're all connected. If we're living from this connection, then what we need tends to show up. And if we see need, if we feel need, if we feel, there's something here, I got something from here, then naturally we want to give something back. Even though it doesn't make sense intellectually, like, that's a lot of money, or I don't want to do that, somehow we feel like we got a lot. We need to give something back. And that's because we're all connected. I'm trying to figure out why I was talking about this. Anybody remember why I was talking about this? Okay, anyway. So this idea that Vegas, something for nothing. That's right. This idea that you can get something for nothing is not a good one. If you look at sort of gold rush camps, lottery winners, a lot of times the whole idea is something for nothing, right? So most people trying to get something for nothing don't get anything. And most of the ones who do don't prosper from it, right? The lottery winner who makes good use of the money, who goes on to have a happy life, is pretty rare. I think the statistics are something like 60 or 70% are divorced and bankrupt within 5 or 10 years. And the most common answer is, I wish I'd never seen that money, because it just did nothing good for them. If you look at I was up in Canada a couple of weeks ago, and there was actually a lot of gold rush stuff at one of the museums I went to see. And I was just thinking about that, where the miners who found the gold very rarely ended up with the gold, right? It wasn't long before somebody took the gold away from them. Or they drank it away, or they spent it on women, or they did something, and they just couldn't hang on to it. So they found gold, they found riches, but they were unable to hang on to it. People win the lottery, they get an inheritance, but they just can't hang on to it. They can't turn it into anything else. It just flows away from them. And in the gold rush, it's actually the people who are selling stuff, right? Who are selling pots and pans and picks and shovels who made the most money. And the cooks. Well, they were offering something, right? They were offering a service, they were offering a product, and charging high prices, but it took a lot to get it there too. And so the people who were actually offering something in return for the gold, in return for the money, were the ones who prospered the most. And this, because we're connected, because there's this flowing, if we try to, like I said, if we try to block it, everything dries up. The reason I'm talking about this is because of this, it's all because of this connection. Because of this connection we have, if we need something, we need to ask inwardly, which way do I need to go? I really need some light here. I really need some inspiration. I don't know which way to turn. Or what do I do with this specific situation? I have a family member who's ill. How do I handle this? How do I think about this? How do I not go crazy about this? Right? And ask inwardly. Keep asking inwardly. And it may be, once in a while, somebody will say, it's like a voice out of the sky saying, telling them what they need. Do this or here. Or really, or sometimes it's just an urge. I want to read this book. No interest in that book, but for some reason I need to read this book or this newspaper. or I just felt like I should turn on the TV and there was something there that gave me some starting point for what I needed. Because of this connection, right, we actually have the ability to understand everything that's going on around us. But most of the time we aren't listening, and a lot of times it just doesn't matter, right? Oh, if I turn this way to work, if I turn that way to work, 99.9999% of the time, it just doesn't matter. It's just nothing worth bothering with. But every once in a while it is. Well, part of the 99%, I was leaving today and I saw the clouds and, I should take an umbrella. I just had the feeling that I needed an umbrella. And I was like, I have to take off my shoes, go back in the house, go get, a small umbrella. No, it probably won't rain. And of course, as soon as I came out of the subway station, it was just pouring down rain. It's like, yep, I ignored that one again. And, I've told this story before, but years ago, I was on the number 2 line, actually passing right up by Chungmuro up there, and I really wanted some peanut butter. And this was 93, 94, and 1993, 94, you couldn't get peanut butter just anywhere. But if you go over the hill from here, by the Volvo dealership in the basement, there's a foreign food supermarket. And they would always have peanut butter. And so I was on the subway, I was going through Seoul, and it's just like, I should get off, transfer to the number 3 line, go to Dongguk, get a taxi, go over the hill, around, do a Yui, get off and go down and get some peanut butter. Well, let's transfer the subway, spend $10 on a taxi, et cetera, et cetera. And just something inside me said, no, don't do it. I'm like, but I really want peanut butter. It's like I've had kimchi and rice and doenjangguk for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long time. I really like some peanut butter. It's just like, no, don't do it. Why not? Why shouldn't I do it? And just nothing. Okay. If you want to kill your inner voice, say, why shouldn't I do it? And it'll just shut up and say, fine, do whatever you want. Just like that. So anyway, I go through all these hoops. I get there, down the big stairs and everything, which you have to walk back up again. I get there, and there's a sign on the door that says, closed for a family situation. They were closed. It was the middle of the week. They're never closed. They're closed that day. I was like, right? Walk back up the stairs, find a taxi, get in the taxi, back to Dongguk, up to number 2 line, and on. All right, so somewhere inside, this part of me that's connected to the store owner knew that this was not a good day to go to the store. But, you're clinging to reasons. Well, why shouldn't I? And guess what? Sometimes, I guess when we say, why shouldn't I? It means I'm going to do it anyway unless you give me a really, really, really good reason. And then I'm still probably going to do it anyway. And so it's like, I don't care what you say, kind of a response. So if you find yourself asking, well, why shouldn't I? Take a step back and look for some sort of deep attachment that's got you a little bit hung up there. But most of the a lot of times, what I call the ouch, that hurts stuff comes from ignoring this inner voice, right? But sometimes it's just life, right? Sometimes it's just going along in the world. You have a different opinion than somebody else. Maybe one of you is better than the other, maybe one of you is righter than the other, but maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it does matter, but you just have a different opinion. You have a different outlook on the world. You have a different history. Maybe you're more alert or more aware, maybe the other person's more aware. And it's just a conflict. There's nothing evil about it, it's just a difference of opinion, a different view of the world, of the way things should be. And you have conflict. You have conflict just because you're born with a human body, right? As we grow up, as we age, entropy strikes, right? Things begin to fall apart. If you start getting older, your body starts having problems, starts issues, bad habits, bad exercise, whatever, and you get pain, you get suffering. And so there's all kinds of stuff like this. And some of it is, okay, what do I need to do about this? And other stuff is like, well, just don't worry about it. A lot of people, if you just give them space, if you just don't bug them on every little issue, are just fine, right? Just let them go do their thing. You don't need to worry about every single thing. But and see, actually, I pause a lot in my Dharma talks because I'm actually asking inside, what do you all need to hear? Is there any particular feeling that comes up that you all need to hear about, that you all need to know about? Because we are all connected. And sometimes why am I talking about this? And I don't know, honestly. But I'll be talking to somebody else later and they'll be like, oh, that thing was just what I needed. And it's like, okay, yeah, I meant to do that, sure. And, to me, honestly, the most boring talks are the ones from a piece of paper, where somebody has, this is what I'm going to talk about today, and you're going to listen to it, whether you care or not. And it's just like, ugh. And if this is a lecture at school where it's some knowledge I have to learn, great. But if it's a Buddhist talk, not so interesting. The same thing applies to your family. The same thing applies to your work. What do I need to do to take care of these people? What do I need to do my job right? And if you ask that inside and just give it some time to just percolate down inside, a lot of times you begin to get a sense of a feeling. Maybe sometimes it's a strong feeling like, right, this is what I need to do. Sometimes it's just a nudge in a direction where you don't really notice it till later. But, what do I need to do about the American presidential election? If I let my tongue engage without my brain, who knows what I'll say. But actually, this guy or that guy or this person, they're so stupid, blah, 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 does nothing to help anything, right? It's not going to convince anybody. It's not going to, and even then, convincing people sometimes is just an ego trip, right? I want everybody to believe what I believe. That kind of that ego thing. It's kind of, I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. Everybody must believe what I believe. Like I said, I don't know where it comes from, but so, all right, which direction is the country going? Which direction is the world going? What do we do about this? Entrust that inside, right? Because you and I are connected, but we're also connected to everybody outside this room. We're connected to everybody in the country, and we're connected to everything and everyone on the planet. People don't see this or don't necessarily feel this, but it's true. In Buddhism, when we talk about the truth of non-duality, this is the level of stuff we're talking about. And so even though you don't see it's true, right? Even though you don't understand why you should stop at red lights, stopping at red lights is a good thing. I actually had to tell a Korean Sanim, he honestly thought yellow meant speed up. Somehow he learned to drive in the US and he thought yellow meant step on it. So you're like a half block to the stoplight and it turns yellow and he's like punching the gas. And it's like, No. But you don't necessarily have to understand why the rule is that way. But if you understand that we're all connected, even though you don't see it, even though you don't necessarily feel it, if you act in accord with that, then gradually you'll begin to see those connections. Gradually you'll begin to sense what's going on. The patterns will gradually become clear to you. And this is really true. But so, okay, whoever gets elected or should lead the country wisely and harmoniously, right? The most wisest, the most harmonious leader, the one that's going to lead us towards the best future, both short-term and long-term, should be the one elected. And entrust that and go forward. And, because my teacher said, Dahen Kunsin once said, she said, sometimes it's like this how we use mind, how we use this fundamental nature. She said, sometimes it's like an election where things lean in the direction of the most votes. So if everybody, if everybody is leaning in the direction of, I want a strong man to take care of us all, right? I want somebody strong to take care of the country and the people. If everybody's thinking that, that's what you get. And more than once, I've been amazed, 70 kilometers north of us here, we have the DMZ. The DMZ is actually only like 1 kilometer wide with a little zone down the middle. But being born on one side of that line or the other side of that line, holy smokes, it's like, am I born as a cow in India or am I born as a cow in Pakistan, right? Huge difference in which side of the line you're born on. And I honestly don't know what exactly, both North and South Korea are Koreans. They North and South do have a little bit different histories, but I actually kind of think it is, I want somebody to take care of us. We want a strong man who will take care of us. And they got the logical results of that, which may not have been quite what they wanted.